One time we were camping on a stretch of river in Central Texas, and we were just chilling by the fire. It was the end of the day, having a few drinks, hanging out, and Manny's like, "Oh my God, turn around!" There's a fucking raccoon digging in our fucking kayak. So then Manny's dumbass grabs a rock and throws it, and he just decks my kayak. I'm like, "What the fuck? You missed the whole fucking raccoon!"
Let me tell you something, guys. Fishing magician, man. Fishing magician, man. I'm a fishing magician, man. Fishing magician, man. I'm a
All right, recording again. All right, camera's recording. Audio's recording. Just double check the camera.
Double check the cam.
All right, we're good.
Cool.
We got 95% battery live.
Let's go.
All right.
Make sure we're hydrated.
Everybody's hydrated. We good.
All right, we're good.
We're good? Alrighty. All right, guys. Welcome back to Unpacking Yakking. We took a little hiatus. My wife accidentally flooded the damn house. So the last podcast we shot was April 5th, because that's the day that happened. It's finally almost back together. But guys, we got a special guest today, guys. We got a gentleman who is fishes all waters, fresh and salt, although I feel like he's the saltwater guy for the pro staff. He's a pro staff member of Outdoor Alphas, like Rolando, like myself. So we're going to try to get all the pro staff members on here to get to know who they are, their backstory, what they're about, what makes them tick, so on and so forth. His YouTube channel is fast growing. And what's the name of that YouTube channel?
So my YouTube channel is South Texas Fishing Fam. So South Texas Fishing, easily search up, and fam, short for family, because it's real family oriented, and I have a lot of friends always joining me to fish, friends and family all the time.
Awesome. And just to formally introduce him, guys, we've got Ray Anthony Terrazas. And again, that he just mentioned his YouTube channel, and he really does a lot of jetty fishing, man. If you haven't seen him or his channel, we'll link it in the description below, and y'all can check that out and see all the types of crazy fish that he catches on the jetties. So let's get started, Ray. As I like to start all the podcasts, let's just get to kind of know who you are. Are you born and raised here in San Antonio? Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm actually from San Antonio. Well, right out of San Antonio, guys. I live between San Antonio and a little city named Lido. I lived in a county named Van Army.
Awesome. And you said Southwest High School?
Correct.
Awesome. And how long, you've lived there your entire life.
Correct.
But you just kind of grew up around that area. Who and what got you into fishing? And what type of fishing was it?
Oh, man. Started off, bro. My parents always fished freshwater when I was younger. They always fished to actually help keep food on the table as well, because times were tough, at times. So I would be there with my mother. Well, my mother, before I was born, my mother would be there with my father fishing. When I was born, and while I decided to come out with my mother and father were bass fishing a lake. Actually can't remember the lake at the moment. I should be asking. I should really know something like that. But was fishing a freshwater lake for some bass, and they were on a hot bite. And I decided to just start kicking and want to come out. And my mom had to leave, and my mom and dad left my uncle behind, and he stayed fishing because the bite was really good and he didn't want to stop fishing.
So what you're telling us is your mom and dad were fishing, and you were ready to come out to the world.
I was ready to come out and fish with them, man.
That's awesome, man. So you're saying that growing up, your family was fishing for sustenance. Your family was
Correct.
fishing for groceries. It wasn't just, hey, I like to do it. It's a pastime. It's something to get outdoors. It's a hobby. It's like, nah, it kind of saves money and it puts food on the table.
So wait,
Correct. And
you were born, like your mom,
Went into labor.
while y'all were in the water?
Correct.
Nice, man.
Yeah. On a hot bite too at that. On a hot bite at that.
Just out of curiosity, did you already have the beard when you were born into
I
the
came
world?
out the
Holy fuck, man. Beard's intimidating, bro.
Yeah, I just trimmed it down too.
That's hilarious. So your mom and dad were out there fishing. You can't remember the lake, not a problem. But boom, your mom went into labor and you came out into the world. So your family, mom and dad, were into fishing, both of them.
Well, my dad was all about fishing, and my mom, of course, kind of caught into it since he was with my dad, and she was with my dad, of course. And after that, I was brought up with a pond behind my house.
Okay.
It was about an acre pond, 20 foot deep, and I learned how to finesse bass really well. I did a lot of catfish fishing, but there was a lot of turtles in there, so I kind of strayed away from that and went more into the fishing, more sporty fish of going after the bass and what makes them tick and things like that. How to fish a pressured fish in any kind of water.
Nice. So you had a pond close, so that was something that was easy to get to, easy to access, and you started fishing for bass because you were straying away from dealing with turtles and stuff like that when you're using cut bait on the bottom in a pond.
Bluegills pretty much.
Gotcha, or live bluegill, whatever the case may be. So cool. So you basically were quite literally born into fishing.
Correct.
That's funny. That's awesome, but also pretty funny. So you grow up there. When did you start? Did you fish throughout your childhood? Did you fish throughout, elementary school, middle school, high school, or did it ever kind of leave you for a little bit and then you got back into it as an adult? If you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
I'm 33.
33. Okay, cool. So we're all about the same age here, which is also just something that we can all connect on. So being that you grew up around a pond, you grew up in a fishing family, you were literally born on the water, essentially. So how was your story? How'd your story go? You went from fishing that pond in the backyard to what? What took it to? What happened after that?
Well, I did shortly after that. I did a lot of fishing in general throughout my life, all the time fishing, and my family was more into. Half my family was into hunting, half my family was into fishing, and I generally grew up with the fishing family side. So I did a lot of fishing, and getting into high school, my father got sick, and I had to start pulling more hours of work and working. Actually, became a manager while I was in high school at Burger King, working at 2:00 in the morning and getting up at early hours for school and doing my half days, and completing everything. And school was working with me. I was having my grades up, and I was barely making it on a tight line with my attendance because my father and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But,
so you were basically had to grow up fast, is what you were saying.
Pretty much, man.
Nice.
And well, go ahead, bro.
No, you're good. So you had to grow up fast. You had to work in school. So that's what I want to know, man. I want to get to know who you are. Again, I've met you several times here in with the staff. We've had several get-togethers to try to promote the social media for the company. Outdoor Alphas, of course, our biggest sponsor. But also, I want to really get to know who you are. So that's cool. So you pretty much when you grew up fishing a pond, obviously everybody's childhood's different. So you were you would fish when you could. You'd head out to the back, this, that, or the other. But when you got into high school, or I think you said correct, your father had got sick, so you had to kind of step up to help out with whatever that may be, whether it's working, help paying bills, this, that, or the other, also being a caretaker at a young age. So I'm assuming during that time, fishing wasn't as in the forefront of your life as, your real life things with work,
Correct.
School, you were still in high school, so on and so forth. So you go out of high school, what'd you do right out of high school? Did you go to college? Did you go to trade school? You didn't do any of that? What'd you end up doing?
Well, I was a manager leaving high school, so I went to a better paying, restaurant as another manager, and then shortly after that, I got picked up by Toyota. Worked Toyota for 10 years on the plant, and after that, that was pretty much my life. 6 days a week, 2 weeks night, 2 weeks day, just making the money and paying what I had to pay, taking care of my family, and doing what I had to do. But it takes out a lot of your life away, because
Gotcha.
pretty much like tied up, you're not really living your life.
Yeah, you're basically working to help support your family. So are you still with Toyota?
No, I actually left about, I want to say 2 years ago.
Okay.
A couple years ago.
And what have you been doing since then?
3 years ago. And I worked a part-time job for UPS.
Okay.
And from there, my father got sick again. So now I'm full-time putting out content for YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and pretty much help support my father and take care of him.
Nice. And are you seeing some monetary gains with your social media presence? Are you able to bring in income with that?
Yes, I am.
Nice, awesome. What would you say is your biggest money maker as far as social media is concerned?
At the moment, YouTube, but of course, I'm trying to grow all platforms, and I'm trying to build up my Instagram and Facebook. So that's something that's on my mind too. Got to build up my platforms and talking to work together. Having all platforms tied into one, and it's just only going to create more.
Yeah, man. Honestly, dude. Social media is an amazing game. From having to deal with it with the business that I run, and just personally, and then with the Instagram. I know Roland helps produce another podcast, and we always joke with him that he's wasting his time, but he's starting to see some numbers now with some of the analytics that we're getting from our page. So big shout out to all of y'all who are supporters, because it's awesome. But he's seeing a lot of growth with the analytics when it comes to IG, and that's just one platform, and it takes up a lot of our time. You know, he's essentially a business owner as well. I have a wife and kid. He's got a girlfriend, a family, 2 dogs, the whole nine. So it takes up a lot of time just to get good at one social media platform. So when people who don't necessarily or aren't in the social media world, they look at like somebody who's doing YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, they're like, that's not work. That's not a job. It really is.
It's draining,
it really is. It's when you're sitting there editing for 5 hours after fishing for 10 hours, and you've got to cut and make it look nice. You got to make it look presentable. You got to make it easily digestible for a bunch of people. You got to be entertaining. You can't just be dull. Like it is work. It may not be your blue collar, you got soft hands, I work at the Toyota plant 12 hours type job, but it's still work. It's mentally draining and it's physically draining because you have to go out there and be the content. And I don't think people realize that.
Probably what's like most mentally draining out of it is that like you're putting out all this content and you're not getting reactions out of it. It's like it's not a race, it's a marathon, but it's just so like it really breaks me down because I'm like, fuck, this video, a video I thought I was going to do good doesn't do good, and mentally it fucking hurts me, like I'm just like, god damn, like what am I doing wrong, like what can I do, you don't get any positive reinforcement, when it comes to like being a full-time social media manager and stuff, and unless you're of course running those multi-million-dollar accounts, but starting up, man, it sucks at the beginning, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. It's time consuming, and also like you got to pay your bills. Your bills ain't waiting for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, to build up all your following and the edits, like I said, even like sound effects, everything, the entertainment wise, the funny wise, getting all aspects. Yeah, getting all the aspects into it. It's really tough, and to keep up with that. Sometimes I'm up from all the way up to like 8 o'clock in the morning, no sleep. And I sleep like 2 hours during the day, and then I catch up on my sleep finally, just editing, and it's a. And
then you said you're a caretaker of your father, so then you got to also make time for that, and so on and so forth. Man. Yeah, man. I mean, we've talked about this before on the podcast. I loved YouTube. I loved being that personality, that entertainment guy, and I still love to put out short form content, but it just, it gets time consuming. It's like, do I work on the business? Do I spend time with family? Do I spend 7 hours on the water to then edit for another 7 hours to make it look good, And
all that comes into like having a passion for it too. So
you've got to do, I mean, dude, I can't tell you, we've got this weird situation at home right now where they're finishing up renovations at the house, so my daughter and my wife are not at the house. So literally every day after work on Thursday, and I was in a tournament with Manny, we're partners, Manny B. We didn't get the W. I dropped the ball. I couldn't get the big fish to stay pinned, but literally every day, Thursday, Friday, and I went out on Sunday, and then yesterday I went out with Rolando because we had the time because my wife and daughter are away. So the passion, I've literally fished every day after work, Thursday, Friday. I went a little bit on Sunday after I went to Market Square, and then last night we went out to fish, and it's again, we didn't catch shit, but it's about the passion, it's about the fun, it's about going out there with him and being out there and spending time on the water together versus in here in the studio shooting a pod. It's fun, it's fun. He found an iPhone, which is crazy. He found like an iPhone at the bottom of a rapid, so that's funny. Hopefully I don't know if he checked if it worked or not, but so cool. So that's let's circle back there. So you went to high school, graduated high school, worked at Toyota for about 10 years, and now you're doing the social media, YouTube, fishing, all the other networks full time now. Awesome. And it's working out. You're able to keep your bills afloat. You're able to support your family. Everything has been okay so far?
Yeah, everything's been pretty good so far.
And how long have you said? You said 2 years?
I've been actually, I was working a part-time job for a year last year, but this year's my first year hopping off into...
Just say, hey, I'm going to take the plunge. I'm going to give it my all. And man, again, I don't keep up with as much of the saltwater stuff because I'm a bass angler by heart. But look, hey, I got my redfish gear on today, guys. We're with a guy who kills it in the salt. So we're gonna transition and talk about that probably the majority of the pod because we haven't had anybody saltwater related here. So I'm going to be asking a lot of genuine questions because, again, I'm very ignorant when it comes to a lot of the situations and a lot of the fishing styles and types of saltwater. I've dabbled over the last couple of years with my best friend Travis. He's really good at taking us out in the kayaks and fishing for reds, flounder, and trout like we do bass, like finding structure, finding oyster reefs in the bay, finding grass, finding mangroves, finding channels, finding cuts, finding potholes. That I can understand because he's helped me relate it back to bass fishing. Like, hey, that's a pothole right
and this
there.
is what I was going to tell you too. A lot of the stuff is similar, like the moon phases and
the
stuff like
moon
that.
phases, the top water bite. Like if you fished for 20 plus years like myself, you can get a quick crash course and go catch a couple fish. But you have got it dialed in, especially at the jetty. So I want to get into that heavy. So let's go ahead and go there. So this last year, you've made the leap to do social media full time, and it seems like you spend the majority of your time down at the coast. Correct?
Yeah, I do a lot of my time. But my time at the coast is basically my time off. That's my free time because the rest of the time I'm either editing or taking care of my family.
Nice. And I would say, how many times a week do you head down to the coast?
I would say once a week. If depending on weather, I could do twice a week, and also might not go that week in general, and just catch up on edits and however I can in general to keep my life moving forward. Whenever it is like more hectic and more busier for me, I'm already ahead on my stuff. So
sweet. That's a side of the business, that the side of social media that a lot of people don't get to see. People just probably see us put out these reels and put out these pods and put out these YouTube videos and all this stuff, and they're like, oh cool, they're just having a whole lot of fun. I mean,
it's frustrating.
It is, man.
It's like it's funny too, because sometimes with family and friends, like they'll see me post a Instagram reel and they're like, man, you're always fishing, and I'm like, that was honestly from like October. Like I just had it saved. I made a clean edit. I made it work, and to stay relevant with the algorithm, you have to post, daily, weekly, etc. So it's like you've got to go down there, you get a bunch of content, and then you spend the next week up here editing that content. So that's pretty cool. So what's your favorite type of fishing down there? It seems like you do a lot of jetty fishing. Is that your favorite, would you say?
Yeah, man. So I do a lot of jetty fishing, everywhere from you could say catching sand trout to catching kingfish, even jack crevalle and tarpon, and now chasing after sharks from the jetties. I'm gonna be grabbing a setup here pretty soon from Outdoor Alphas, and I'm going to be working Avid with custom built rod, and hopefully get into some nice sharks at the jetties, guys. But I've been doing some crazy fishing, some camping, hopefully get into some overnight trout camping. It's really kind of, you hear some stories, man, out there where people say they're camping at this jetty and the raccoons just come out of nowhere, and they're just like a pack of like wild hounds, and they're just everywhere, and they're eating all your snacks and all your food and all your bait fish and everything, and they're just like everywhere, man. You turn around, there's a raccoon there.
That's hilarious. That's funny because when we've done overnight trips before as well, we've had to fight off raccoons, and it's funny with I miss those trips that back with no responsibilities, back with Manny and Travis, and one time we were camping on a stretch of river in Central Texas, and we were just chilling by the fire. It was the end of the day, having a few drinks, hanging out, and Manny's like, "Oh my God, turn around!" There's a fucking raccoon digging in our fucking kayak. So then Manny's dumbass grabs a rock and throws it, and he just decks my kayak. I was like, "What the fuck? You missed the whole fucking raccoon!" Put a big ass dent in my bona fide, like motherfucker. It was so funny. And then
overnight trip we did, I had to fight Manny for my fucking food, bro. He walked in my room and just started scavenging for food.
Oh, dude, it's just funny, man. And one time we were camping on this abandoned bridge, and then like literally I just turned around because you feel somebody watching you or something coming up. It was a freaking raccoon, dude, like crawling up to the campfire. I was like, dude, what the? So that's funny.
Huge,
yeah,
dude.
Fighting them. We've had to hang our stuff in trees on the devils because the raccoons come out at the campsites that are designated for people that fish the Devil's River. That's funny. I can relate to that. So watching some of your stuff before we came into the interview today, man, you're getting on some giant fish, some giant crevalles. You just sent a fish in the group chat the other day on our prostaff group chat of like a 40-something inch red.
It was a 42-inch bull red.
42-inch bull red. What'd you catch that on?
I caught it on the silver spoon, artificial, guys. I've been fishing nothing but artificial for bigger fish recently, just because I like the sport of it. And, ain't nothing like catching a fish on a lure. You use a bait and you're just sitting there, even if you're freelining the mullet, which is preferred bait to freeline at the jetties other than Manhattan, you're free lining the mullet out the jetties, like you're just sitting there with the bait in your hand. When you're working the lure and getting a fish to believe it's a real fish and actually attack the lure, there's a whole different feeling in that. It just makes
called
you
tricking a fish.
Yeah,
you're tricking a fish.
It makes you feel a whole lot better inside as a sport fisherman itself, and for the love of the sport too. It makes you feel like just it's a whole different feeling.
Can you tell people what that other thing was that before you talked about artificial, like basically like the most common way to catch reds?
Okay, so basically one of my most favorite way to catch reds is on the bottom Carolina rig, or just a weight, bigger Carolina rig, or a 3-way setup with a spider weight, triangle weight if you're at a heavier jetties. If I'm a smaller jetties like Packery channel jetties, I use like a 1 ounce egg weight. I'm at bigger jetties, port A jetties, I'm using spider weights or big triangle weights, 3, 4, up to 8 ounces. And just to keep in with that current, because it's going to be drafting you carrying you into the rocks, and you're going to be pretty much snagging instead of catching fish. And when that happens, all you can do is just wait for a fish to take your line off the rock or break off and retie and get going with your next rig.
Nice. So let's transition into diving into what you know and what you're locked in on, which we kind of are. But also, I want this podcast to be informational. I want it to be, we got to know who you were, we got to know your backstory, we got to know why you fell in love with fishing. You're still doing it to this day, full time now. So that's awesome. So let's transition to full blown jetty fishing. What jetties are you fishing? If you can tell, we don't need to know what spot, what exact location, but what are your favorite jetties to head down south and fish from?
So one of my favorite jetties is Packery Channel. That's my first ever jetty I ever fished saltwater, guys. Packery Channel jetties. I went with my father, and I got on a hot sheephead bite, and it was crazy. Everybody on the jetties were just slaying sheephead, and I get there, and we're just looking at this happen, and we just start fishing, and by the time we know it, we have our limit, and we're just looking at each other like, wow, we just did this. And after that, it just flipped the switch in me to go from freshwater to saltwater, and that's all it took right there, that one trip right there.
Golly. So one good trip at the coast catching fish with human teeth, you were like, that's it.
Yeah, man.
I'm it.
Yeah, those fish are
were
crazy.
you freaked out? Were you freaked out when you saw that for the first time?
Yeah, well, yeah, man. Those fish have some human-like teeth, and they have crushers inside. So when you see it, it makes
You're like, damn, I had a cavity pulled. Let me grab that real quick. Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah.
First time I ever caught one, I was like, yo, whoa, hey now. Like, what's going on here, right? So that's cool, man. So that one trip down to the jetties, you and your father limited out on sheepheads, and you were just like, you know what? I'm going to learn this. So you started at the Packery. What other jetties do you like to fish?
So now I recently started getting into more bigger fish. I was doing a lot of slot fishing, and generally do my slot fish fishing at Packery Channel jetties. It's a smaller jetties and easier to work your bait, less snags. You go to Port A, it's a lot deeper, and you're worrying about heavier gear, bigger weights. So I do a lot of my slot fish fishing at Packery Channel jetties.
And when you say slot fish fishing, what species are you targeting there?
So it could be anywhere from flounder, trout, redfish, all the way up to kingfish there. Jacks will be around there. Tarpon, I caught my first tarpon at Packery as well. It's a really great location for all types of species, but generally more smaller as to keeper size, not bigger fish that you want for a trophy. And I go there generally to catch keeper fish you want to take home that are in slot range.
Okay, and that's at the Packery Channel.
Correct.
Okay, so then the next jetty that you've fished, you mentioned, was the Port Aransas.
Yeah, so the Port Aransas jetties, I've been fishing it recently, about I want to say the past year and a half, really hard with a lot more artificials. Before I would just hit it every once in a while with artificials for certain fish, only whenever they were in season. And now I'm only, I'm just going out there all times of the year with artificial and just trying my luck for different fish and, just getting my experience up and stuff like that.
What are your go-to artificials for the Port A jetty?
So you can't go wrong with the spoon, guys. Spoon's always cheap, and it's anything will hit a spoon, from a trout, redfish, a flounder will even hit a spoon.
That's gotta be a hungry flounder.
Yeah, flounder hit a spoon, man. It's insane. I seen some folks catching them in the surf one time in the fall with a nice little Johnson Sprite spoon, and they were just jigging it off the bottom, and they were catching some flounders.
Nice.
Talking to the microphone.
Nice. Okay, so the Port A jetty, you've transitioned to more artificial,
Correct.
and your favorite go-to that anybody can afford is a spoon.
Correct. 3
Gotcha.
ounce spoon, because you want it to get out there far, and you want it to sink really fast into that current, man. 3 ounce spoon it's just a well-rounded lure to use.
Nice. What else have you thrown out there that's been successful?
Other than that, generally I'll toss out bucktails, and I'll add like a swim bait to it. Also, I'll toss out. Other than that, I'll keep it pretty much simple for those kind of fish because most of the big fish I'm going to be catching are bull redfish. All time of the year, they're going to be bull redfish. Other than that, there's going to be certain seasons when bigger fish come in, like say jacks or kingfish and tarpons. And when those come in, I switch up to a certain lures. Like the tarpon, I'll be going to like an NLBN lure, like a 3-ounce big NLBN.
And what is that? Because I have no idea what that is.
So NLBN is a no live bait needed. It's a jig, and it looks kind of like a mullet.
Okay.
And it's really
So it looks like a swim bait essentially.
correct. It's swim bait,
Okay.
soft plastic swim bait.
Nice.
And it's real. It has a real good profile. And a tarpon, I don't know. My buddies and I just been tearing them up.
So you've been catching some tarpon.
We've been hooking into them, but I hooked into a couple of them.
It's hard to keep them pinned. Is what I
Correct,
heard.
correct.
Gotcha, dude. We got to set up a trip. I know Roland would be super interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Set up a trip and go down there with you. We'll get the big cameras out and go.
Oh man, it's insane, dude. It's a whole nother experience, man.
Yeah, essentially, I just want to go to those trips when I saw them look like a fucking jackass in front of my girlfriend, and if I do catch something, I can like impress her.
Yeah, because
like,
the other day he headed down to the coast. He was like, "Hey, I found this rod. I guess you left it here. I'm gonna take it." And I still haven't thrown it. Hopefully, didn't fuck it up because it was salt water. And he had a spoon tied on. So, dude, I'll never leave bass fishing. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, once you feel the tug," I felt the tug of bull red, all that. It just doesn't. It's not the same. It's not the passion isn't there. But I do want to get out and take Roland and take anybody, and I want to get some content out there, man, and take the big cameras and get out there and spotlight not only you but also just what South. Like honestly, if I had all the money in the world, I'd spend a month just doing all different types of fishing
talking to the microphone.
that are available here in Texas. Like basically you've got your saltwater, you can catch tarpon, cobia, jack, reds, flounder, trout, come in to catch bass, alligator gar, catfish. Like I would love to spend a month just showcasing all the aquatic life Texas has to offer. That would be great, but
Not to
obviously
mention the Guadalupe with the rainbow trout, man.
with the rainbow trout,
There's some
the
nice
Guadalupe
rainbows in there.
bass,
Some record trout in there.
There's a bunch of stuff. Like I said, if I had all the time in the world and all the money in the world, I would just spend it every day fishing as well.
What strayed me like away from like saltwater fishing was the last trip I went on was a couple years ago, almost like 10 years ago, but it was with a good friend of mine. He passed away. So when he ended up passing away, I kind of just like, strayed away from like saltwater fishing. My dad would take me here and there, but I mean, my dad didn't really have a lot of knowledge when it came to saltwater fishing. The little bit of knowledge I did grasp, and I forgot everything, was from my friend Drew, but rest in peace to him. But yeah, like I said,
Shout out to him.
Once he ended up passing away, I did an weekend overnight trip with him and his dad. And after that,
Never went back?
I never got the opportunity because he ended up, going a different route, and that wasn't a good route, which ended up, costing him his life. And going back this past week out to the beach and throwing that spoon out, like kind of got my fire back up, to want to go saltwater fishing and then try to learn it. There's a lot to learn.
I think if he felt the pull of like a slot red, like a 27 and a half in a kayak,
man.
oh dude, he would want to go every weekend.
Yeah.
I felt that I love it, but I'd rather chase fish. I'd rather chase green fish, but I know if he got hooked into like a red that had him fighting and pulling for like 3 minutes in the kayak, I might lose him. He might be like, you know what, fuck that bass shit. Like, but I mean, it's not for me like that, but I appreciate it, but I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing for that. So Port A jetties, what other jetties do you fish?
I have fish pass jetties, which is an old pass that used to be there. Now it's closed down, and it's just basically little finger jetties that stick out into the water.
Okay, and where's that located?
Between Port Aransas and Packery Channel jetties. It's,
okay, and the Packery Channel, forgive me, is in Corpus?
It's in North Padre.
North Padre. Okay.
Right.
So Packery is North Padre.
Corpus Christi, North Padre, yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. So those are the two jetties, the three essentially that you basically spend your time at.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
I want to hit some new ones this year, though. Some like Mainsfield SPI. So if you guys are out there, just give me a holler whenever y'all see me.
Gotcha. So those are, how many jetties are there in Texas? So you've just named another 2, so that would be 5. I'm assuming if you head out to like Houston area, there's a bunch over there.
Yeah, there's a handful over there too. So I want to be collaborating with some folks there probably this year, if not into next, with some folks over there to work some jetties over there as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe we can transition into some of that as well. Talk about like the YouTube collaborations. Collaborating is basically how you get your name out there. It's an essential part of having a social media. You need to always link up with those those people, and basically you have followers that they don't, and they have followers that you don't, and that's just basically how you introduce them to new people. So you love those jetties. Those are your 3 main jetties that you fish. Now let's transition into some gear. What do you say? What do you take with you on a trip where you're going to spend a solid day out there? So just start from small to big. So let's just say you're going for sheep's head. You obviously don't need a freaking broomstick or anything crazy like that. What are you taking for sheep's head?
So for sheep's head, I generally, to be honest with you guys, I don't recommend this for a lot of people, but I use my bait caster at Pack-Reach Channel jetties, or for sheep's head, or for any kind of keeper fish. I'll use my bait caster, a Daiwa Coastal, and I purchased it here at Outdoor Alphas. Daiwa Coastal on a Daiwa Saltist rod, and I'm ripping some bull reds on it. I caught 2 tarpons on it, and it's to me it's a challenge. But honestly, a 4K size reel is all you need, like a Pin Battle 4000, anywhere, a Saragossa, something simple that's capable of holding, a redfish. And you don't really need a big reel to hold a redfish. Some people go out there with 10K reels catching slot reds. You only need like a 3K reel, maybe even a 2K if you want to have fun. Especially if you're at the jetties that don't necessarily need a lot of line. You could fish at 3K and have yourself a blast with slot fish all day.
Nice. So essentially, that'll basically be something that we have here on the table. Every podcast from now on, we're trying to do a spotlight product for our biggest monster Outdoor Alphas. And we've been hearing that there's not a lot of affordable options in the store. This store is more of a niche store for sure. You can come in here and spend $1,000 really easy. But we do have some affordable options, and we're going to talk about them today. That would be both of these reels that you see in front of us right here. Obviously, these are going to be on the smaller size. Again, these are the affordable. These are affordable combos, is what we'd like to call them. This is a Daiwa Laguna 3000. This one's going to be a little bit more pricey than this one, but the price point fits any budget. This is $44.99, so basically $45. And you can throw this at any of those. You can throw it at Pack-Reach Channel jetties and catch any kind of slot fish with that. Any kind of slot fish with that. I'm not sure how many yards you could fit on there. Probably a couple hundred would be topped out for sure. But 150, 200. But you could take this. $45, get you a $45 rod here at Outdoor Alphas. I think they're the Laguna series as well from Daiwa here. You be out on the Pack-Reach Channel catching trout, fish like this guy, especially this time of year, under $100. Under $100. Now this is a little on the cheaper side. It's also a 3000. This is the Daiwa Crossfire. This one comes in at $34.99. Again, this is probably a little less a little less of a. Obviously, it's less in cost, so it's going to have less power, less gears, etc. But this will still get you out there. You can still get out there if this is just something that you don't do very often, and you want to take something to catch the slot fish, the trouts, the smaller reds, the sheep's head. You can pick this up with another Daiwa Laguna rod. You're under $90 with that combo. So again, you don't have to break the bank. I know this guy's probably got some crazy setups that are up there, but he does it for a living. He does it full time. You can get out there and catch fish like this guy. Maybe we'll plop in a video or plop in a picture of some of the giants that he's caught out at these jetties. So that's our spotlight product for today, guys. If you mention the podcast on top of these prices, you can save 10%. Just mention Unpacking Yakin at the register with Mark or Jesse and save yourself 10% on these already affordable rods. So let's get back to what we were talking about, man. We were talking about some of the fish that you're catching. Let's talk about times of the year. What's the best time? Let's break the year. Well, I'm going to let you break the year up. Could we break it into quarters? Could we break it into first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth, Or is there certain times of the year for what? Let's start in January. From January to when is what kind of bite?
So from January, I'm generally catching, it's a lot more colder in January. So I'm fishing for a little bit more colder fish. Flounder like the cold, and the black drum are generally running pretty well, as well as big bull reds. And you go out there with a crab, generally half a crab, cast out there to out of piers and chase after some nice big black drum. And I'm talking about some nice 40 inchers. And nice. And generally around that time of year, you're just catching. They're breeding, so they're really thick in the waters in most of the channels out there.
Gotcha. So from January to winter, you chasing these cold water fish.
So about, I want to say February. And once February hits, I switch up to chasing sheephead and flounder.
Okay. So January, you're chasing big drum and what did you say?
Big drum and flounder.
Big drum and flounder. Okay. And then that's going to stop around. So January to February. So when February is coming up to an end and March is rolling around the corner, you transition to what?
March is coming around, sheep's head and flounder. And as the March starts to diminish going into April, I start switching into flounder and redfish. And from there, going into April, after the temperatures get just right and the redfish start showing up a little more thicker at the jetties, Jack Crevalle starts showing up. The temperatures have to generally be around 70 degrees on average for most of the, you get that spring run coming in, all kinds of fish start migrating back into the bays and stuff. And it's generally around that temperature, around 70 degrees. And of course, there's seasons that they spawn as well. So the sheep's head will be spawning most of all of March. And after February, I'm done fishing, for trout, whatever. I forgot to mention that trophy-sized trout is, caught like a lot of the times more in winter time. January or December, January time.
Those gator trout.
Gator trout on some lures that you could find here in Outdoor Alphas, guys.
Sweet. So that's good. Again, that's knowledge that, again, I don't know about. I know some of our listeners aren't going to know about. So right now we've kind of had a really nice spring, I would say. Like it's cool. It's been warm a day or two, but we've had a pretty nice spring where in the mornings it's like 55, in the afternoons it's like 80. It's felt really good. We've gotten lucky. And then of course we have the crazy weather with these storms that blow in. But so right now we're in May, right? It's May, 2nd or 3rd, something like that. The 3rd?
Yeah.
What are you chasing in May?
So in May, we start to hit summer water temperatures. Generally around this time of year, it's a lot more warmer. This year's a lot more cooler, like he said. So by this time, Menhaden already pushing in, and a kingfish.
What's a Menhaden?
Menhaden is looking like, I don't know if y'all guys fish freshwater, but they look like generally a shad that's they start out about this big, and they get about this big. Just like any type of shad that you would see in freshwater. And those guys, man, the kingfish follow them in, and once they come in, man, the kings are a blast. On top waters, you just see them like skyrocket, like
we need to set up a trip for kings.
Yeah, they just skyrocket a whole story out of the water, and it's absolutely insane. And once you see that fish, your heart just drops, and you're not at a loss of words. And by the time you know it, you're hooked up, you're real screaming, and it's just insane.
That's awesome. My best friend Travis goes out there, not in a while because he's still recovering from shoulder reconstructive surgery. But his crazy ass will go out there to the freaking breakers in the kayak, and he's told me that it's just like a freaking train coming and he'll troll on the way to the rigs, and he says when you get a kingfish, it's just like a bus hitting your lure.
They're smokers, bro.
Yeah, he says you're just paddling, and next thing you know, your rod just. He's like, you either caught a king on a ribbon fish or he's trolling like a, whatever the heck he trolls out there. And I mean, it's cool to see him come back with like fucking 2-3 kingfish that's half the size of his kayak.
Yeah,
5 feet, 6 feet.
Yeah, dude.
And he's got to paddle that shit back. I mean, it's insane. I would never do that. That's not me.
Yeah,
but
not to mention the sharks love those things too. So if you're out there and you're trying to bring a half dead kingfish up onto your kayak and you have a shark just push you over, that's a whole other thing.
Dude, he told me one time about a time he had a shark feeding frenzy going on, and they were like hitting his paddles as he was paddling there. So yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. I'll let him do that. I'll go out there in the boat,
It's a whole other story.
Yeah, I know he says that boaters go out there when the swells are like under a foot, but I'm not taking my kayak out there. Hard pass.
It's kind of risky, especially around the time of year when.
But he's done it. He's crazy. So May to what? May. So May, you're hoping that the kings are coming in.
So May the kings come in, and then after that, by that time, all the fish that are at the jetties are generally pushed into the jetties, into the bay system. So you're generally catching less fish, and they're more smaller fish, and you have to hit the tidal movements when it switches. Tidal movements. We have high tides and low tides throughout the day, and all that gets tied into with the moon and stuff. It's a whole big science thing, but the water comes in and goes out throughout the day. Like sometimes once, sometimes 2 times, sometimes 3 times, and it can go faster or slower. And when it happens, when it switches, those bigger fish generally are gonna want to feed whenever you're catching nothing but smaller ones. That might be that one moment, that 1 hour when it switches that you're going to catch your bigger fish.
Nice. So then rolling around into the dog days of summer, your fair weather angler is probably, the majority of the guys that can finally get out. What's coming in June, July, August when it starts getting real hot, triple digit days, beating sun on you? What are you transitioning once May leaves?
So once May leaves and stuff like that, you have a lot of man-hating pushing in. And there's a lot of, you get a mixture of different stuff throughout the summer. You'll have redfish, kings, jacks, depending on your days, because we have east winds that push in. So guys, when I go chasing after pelagic fish, I like to look for a east wind window or a window that's pushing in offshore water. And generally east wind windows are the windows that generate that push. And whenever it happens, we'll get jacks, kings, tarpons, cobias, especially cobias at the certain times of year. If that weather is lining up the way it should, there'll be cobias at the jetties.
Explain for people what a pelagic fish is, for those who don't know what that is.
So it's an open water swimming fish. Basically any fish that swims in open water. Not a base system. They're open water. You could say open
deep
ocean.
blue sea.
Correct.
So you're talking about dolphins, mahi-mahi.
Correct.
You're talking about cobia. You're talking about kingfish. You're talking about fish that live in 80 feet of water.
Yeah,
that's where
oceans.
they live. That's where they survive. And the water comes pushing in, like you said, an eastbound storm system or an eastbound wind. I've always been told, again, I've been fishing forever and I've heard certain things, but I'm still not super knowledgeable on it. But most of the time, Travis would tell me that, hey, when that blue water comes in, that's when those pelagic fish start coming in.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what happens.
Those marlins. I don't know that there's marlins in Texas, but marlins, the mahi-mahi, the cobia, all the big blue water fish come in once that blue water comes into to Texas. And I've always found that sometimes with our friend groups and stuff, and just my wife likes to go to the beach. In August, it seems like sometimes clean water comes in, like August.
You get some calm waters and you get clean water, and generally that's when the kings are there. And you're not always going to be there, but they're going to be around because once the menhaden are in and the water's clear, temperatures are just right. They have that summer temperature run. So once the water gets a little bit cooler, they're going to be in from July all the way up until September, October time-ish.
Gotcha. And then October to the December, you generally transition back into that winter, that cold water fish.
Correct. Yeah.
Essentially back to the flounders, back to the
September and October, it's absolutely nuts for redfish.
Nice.
Like redfish are just everywhere. They're spawning, and you go out there, catch your limit in 15 minutes.
Nice. That's where you're eating into my favorite month of the year in September. That's why I'm a big dove hunter.
It's the mullet run, man. Everything is out. You got everything from everything, any kind of fish, bro. It's just migrating.
I might have to take a trip this year, man. But like I said, it's so hard to pull me away from the central part of Texas in September, because just like with at the coast here, you're transitioning into hunting. You've got dove season comes in. That's more of like a group activity. It's a lot of commodity with that, a lot of camaraderie with that. You're hanging out, with your boys, BSing, shooting birds, and then in the evening, get on the lake and catch a double-digit fish on top water. So it's hard to be like, dang, I want to go to the coast. But I've always heard that. Always, all the guys who saltwater fish in my life, they're always like, dude, September, October, you got to get down to the coast.
Yeah, September, October is just absolutely nuts. You'll be sitting there at the jetties, and the evening comes, and the tide's going out, and you just see the water fill with fish, and it just all the fish come to the top, and you see kings and tarpon just blowing up on them, and it's an absolutely nuts sight to see.
That's cool. Maybe we'll make a trip down there. So now that we've kind of talked about, some of the time of the year, weather periods, tidal things, and you've dropped some good bits of knowledge on that. Let's talk about some of the gear that you take besides just the affordable combos. What are you taking? It's let's say we're coming up to go chase kings. You're going to take whatever you need. How many rods and reels do you take? I've been to the jetty several times. I see guys that have coolers with all types of shit on it to hold rods. They got their, give us like your setup. It's just you and you're ready to take it, and you're ready to get out there with a buddy, and you're planning on spending all day out there to spend the night maybe, and you're ready to get on them. What are you taking with you?
I like to take me a setup for every kind of fish to catch.
Okay, everything. So how many setups is that? We had Rolando on last time we did a pod, and he's talking about he took 13 to 15 rods for every tournament. Oh, wow. So what do you take from a saltwater on land, essentially, on a jetty? What do you take whenever you're going?
So when I go, I generally like to take 2 big rods, of course, for my bigger lures, my 3-ounce spoons, some 10-footers, generally at Port Aransas when I'm fishing the bigger jetties.
Okay, and get into detail on that. What's the rod? What's the reel?
So I use a Daiwa Surf. That's a Daiwa Coastal Surf SP. It's a 10-footer. Really affordable. It's $100. I mean, for saltwater fishing and bigger rods, you're looking into like $180, $200 rods.
Oh yeah,
and that's pretty affordable. And you go to my YouTube videos and you could see them all just rod boat over, and I'm cranking in jacks and bull reds like nothing.
Nice. There's a Daiwa swim bait rod that's $100. It's an XSB. It's a great starter swim bait rod. I tell guys, hey, if you're looking into throwing 3 to 5 ounce lures, big baits, with a 3,000 plus size reel, it's a great rod. So Daiwa does make some great stuff, and all that stuff is here in store at Outdoor Alphas. So what reel are you throwing on that?
So unfortunately, they stopped making it, but I'm using the Daiwa VG. However, now I'm going to push into the new MQs. I have a 5K MQ. Now, speaking of our lineups, I like to use 2 big reels, 1 big rod with a 10-foot, 6K reel. It could be Saragossa. It could be, Certate. Certate, you're looking at more of a higher-end reel, something that you really want to catch and lock down on the big fish.
Okay.
And have, really good quality. And then going down, I like to have 2 big rods with 6K reels, 10-footers, if possible. And then 1 reel, 5K size to catch, good decent sized slot fish or to work smaller lures. 5K size, you could catch any kind of, fish from a pinfish all the way up to possibly a kingfish, if you work your reel right.
And how many of those medium sized reels and rods do you take?
I only take 1, and I take a real good quality one.
Okay, so quality, middle of the road reel as far as weight. 2 big reels, and then on the smaller side for bait or for trout or to pass the time.
I take my bait caster.
Okay. Your Daiwa Coastal. Yeah, you already mentioned that.
I use my bait caster for almost everything.
And that's obviously because you know how to work a bait caster. You're used to it. You're comfortable with it.
Correct.
And stuff like that. If not, pick up one of these setups right here.
4K setup would definitely
3 to
4K, 3 to 4K. Yeah, would
Gotcha.
definitely replace that right there.
Nice.
Easily.
Awesome. So if it's just you and you're not like taking somebody out or whatever, you're taking about 5 rods is what it sounds
Correct, about
like.
4 to 5 rods.
4 to 5 rods. Okay, cool. So you don't need a whole bunch of stuff. And then what are you taking gear wise? Like, are you have like a little wagon set up? I know you know what I'm talking about. You've been out there. You got guys with the wagons. They got the whole family. Puro pinche San Antonio.
Yeah, wagons with your umbrellas.
Umbrellas,
canopies, all kinds of stuff.
They bring and nowadays you can bring a propane with a little griddle and fucking make some tortillas out there. So what do you take if you're gonna spend the night out there?
So when I'm going out there, I like to take when I'm spending the night. You saying?
Oh well, so let's just say an all-day run, and then how it differs if you plan on camping.
When I'm going, I like to take a wide variety of lures. I'll take my backpack with full of different lures for bigger fish, and I depending on the time of year. So if I'm gonna go to the jetties in the winter, I'm not gonna take lures for a kingfish. So I like to narrow down my stuff to keep exactly what I need for that trip. So that way I'm not carrying so many things because guys, after a 10-hour fishing day and catching all your limits, say you catch 2 limits of fish and you're there, you're not going to want to carry back all those fish, all those stuff, and then all your rods.
Everybody's jealous of you, looking at you, trying to steal your
Stopping
shit. Hey, what are you catching on?
Can I get a picture of that?
That's awesome, man. So pretty much, man, it's a full day workout is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a full day workout.
If you make it a point and you're locked in as you are, you're spending all day out there catching, let's say, a limit of reds, a limit of kings, and sheep's head, you're lugging around 200 pounds in fish right there.
Correct. Yeah,
so you're not only are you bringing back 200 pounds of fish, you're also bringing about 50 pounds of gear plus rods, 2 or 10 foot. So I mean, it's again now you see why people have the wagons and all the setups and all that. That's awesome,
and
man.
For me, it comes down to like the season. So knowing my seasons, knowing your seasons of the fish, when they're going to be breeding and when they're going to be spawning, you know exactly when they're in the water systems, you know exactly what to take. So you're avoiding to take extra things. So when you're coming after your trip, you're not dying halfway dehydrated, cramping with all this weight on your shoulders because you have extra luggage and gear you don't need, guys.
Gotcha. So it makes sense why you're on the pro staff team, and that's just something that I will say that Samuel has done a really good job on, the owner of Outdoor Alphas here, that he's kind of covered everyone as far as anybody who's on the team. Everybody has a different specialty, and I like that. That's to be diversified is what's going to be successful, and that's good that you're dialed in to the saltwater, especially from the jetties. We've got Rolando, who's just a freaking he's a tournament angling beast, right? He's just it's his time at the moment to be as good as he is doing the tournament scene.
Yeah.
So it's good that everybody has their own little niche that they're good at. We're gonna get everybody on. Hopefully, we still got to get on Keith. We've got to get on Ramon, and I think a few others. So once we get everybody on, it'll make sense. And again, with you, it's making sense as to why, because you're the guy that's probably pushing all the saltwater stuff, because you're out there, you're killing it, you're doing good, you know what you're doing, you're dialed in, you do it full time now. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. So that's good. That's good to know. Well, we did ask on the Instagram, guys, if you're not following, it's Unpacking Yakin on IG. Is it podcast after that? I think it's Unpacking Yakin podcast at Unpacking Yakin podcast. Every week that we do have a guest, we usually try to preempt and ask y'all for questions for that guest. This week we had 4 questions, so we're going to move into that. So if you're not following, make sure to follow and just keep up to date with the socials, with the story. Roland does a really good job at handling all of that and just get y'all engaged and be a part of the podcast from your couch. One of them is how do you keep your gear clean and like how do you keep your gear cleaned and not corroded and fucked up from being at the salt? I went on a saltwater trip for a bachelor party 2 weeks ago. I thought I cleaned my reels good, and I mean they need to get deep cleaned because my jig reel, my Corrado, it's rough. It's rough around the edges. I can feel it fighting when that's a problem for me because I love jig fishing. Yesterday I was fishing with Roland and I was flipping my jig and it had some tension on it, and I don't like that. Then I had to loosen the bearing to let it fall more, and I don't like that because then it takes away. I had my shit dialed in where I can skip it far without backlashing.
Talk to the microphone.
And I can flip it certain ways and where I'm comfortable. But yesterday I felt some restraint on it because I took it to the salt and I had to loosen that bearing, and so it was falling faster than I wanted, and I couldn't skip as far because I had bird's nest. So how do you keep your gear clean is one of the questions. I think that's a great question.
Man, going to the salt, there's almost no way of getting away from the salt, guys.
Yeah, no, you'll get in everything.
Yeah, you're reeling in, and there's salt in the water, so there's salt drenched all over your reel without you even wanting to be on there. So
and you're on the bank. This is not including. Every time I go to the coast, I'm in a yak. So not only is it fucking everywhere, I put my rod down and it's splashing in, and I'm handling it. It's everywhere.
Yeah, man. Speaking of that too, like I just barely got my reel back from my reel service guy. He's actually probably going to be servicing reels for the shop here soon too. I'm thinking.
What's his name?
Tight Lines Rod and Reels.
Cool.
That's his name of his business. I forgot his name. I believe it's Brian, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And man, I had got the reel cleaned up. It worked literally better than when I first originally bought it.
Sweet.
It felt a little bit more rougher because my gears, I catch everything on it. Like I said, my baitcaster, I've caught tarpon on it, bull reds.
And this is the Daiwa Coastal?
Correct. I've caught tarpon on it, bull reds, numerous slot reds. Like it's taking a beating. It's taking a massive beating on the gears. So I could fear the roughness a little bit from the gears, but overall, the castability of his work, it casted and worked way better than when I first got the reel.
Nice. So to keep your gear clean, you're saying it's just regular maintenance.
Regular maintenance. So there's no way getting around from having the salt water on your reel. So what I like to do is splash it down with some. I'm trying to remember. It's a filtered water, so I believe it's what is the water the babies drink?
Distilled water.
Distilled water. Yeah, correct. So just drop distilled water on it because it's the most purest form of the water on the reel. If you have distilled water or filtered water, you don't want to put any hard water on your reel. So you just quick splash of distilled water or filtered water over your reel when you're done, and that's it. If you're having the bait casters, you tighten up your bearings so that way you get everything nice and tight so you don't get no water in there, and just drop it at an angle you're sure yourself that you're not going to get any water into your reel.
So of course,
Wash it down all the
So
time.
what you're saying is a good, clean, thorough wash to give you the best chance. You can use distilled water, but you're eventually, inevitably going to need to have it serviced and fixed.
Correct, yeah.
Salt is so corrosive.
Yes.
And I mean, it
bad.
literally just destroys everything. So the next question that we got, man, is what size? Which you've already talked about, but still, again, this is just a question. What if you could only afford one setup and you want to catch just about everything, what size rod and reel would you recommend for that? Let's just say I just got my first paycheck. I got an extra $400 to spend. What rod and reel setup should I get?
Any kind of 5,000 size reel will catch you anything from a big fish to a slot fish, and it's not too heavy. For smaller fish, it's not too heavy for trout fishing. I would say 4K. But if you want to get into if you so happen to hook into a bull red, king, or a jack,
5,000 is a little better.
Yeah, 5,000 is a little better
then what
because of
size
line
rod?
capacity. And size rod, I would go basically for jetty fishing. I would say anywhere from 8 foot, 7 foot is what I use on my bait casters. Some of them, but anywhere from like 8 foot to 10 foot. Generally, 8 foot's like a happy medium right there.
And I think you said that there was a rod that Daiwa made that's $100. It's a really good rod.
Correct. It's a Daiwa Coastal Surf SP.
Okay.
It's a 2-piece, and that one's really good for your bigger setups, your 6K setups.
Gotcha. And what does a 5,000 size reel run? Let's just say a Daiwa.
We want to say like about $100, 150.
Okay, so you're saying that if you got $400 to spend, you could still have 150 left over for gas to get down to the coast if you bought a Daiwa rod, that XSB or whatever you said, and then that reel that you just mentioned, maybe a 5,000 size Daiwa.
So it's about $300. You could be walking down.
So you can get there, tax out the door about $300, and you can catch anything from a king to a big red to a jack to a big gator trout to a big sheep's head, all on that rod, right? Because anything up, you're obviously going for the bigger fish. That's a very specialized niche rod and rail combo. If you show up with your Daiwa Coastal and a 7-foot rod, good luck. You're not catching.
Yeah.
You're not gonna knock down a king with that. You will be able to stick with the smaller fish, but a happy medium would be the setup you just mentioned.
A happy medium would be like $100 reel and $100 rod.
Nice, awesome. And then, do fish bites and fish gum work out there?
Fish bites and fish gum actually do work. Fish gum, I got introduced to that last year, and believe it or not, I believe.
What is fish gum?
So fish gum, it's somewhat similar to fish bites, but they originally made it as like a sheet, and it looks like taffy almost, bro. And it's real like gummy, and they call it fish gum. And it has a real good, I would assume, a better flavor than the fish bites itself. But the pompano absolutely love the fish gum, man.
So it's just a goo.
It's
just
a goo.
a taffy goo you stick on a hook?
Correct, yeah.
And you just toss it out there on an egg weight?
You don't need nothing. It has everything for you. It has the flavor. It has, fish is going to smell the flavor way down the beach as it come and eat your fish gum.
That's crazy. So you say that fish use their sense of smell a lot at the coast then?
Correct, man.
Okay, sweet. And then this one's just more of a silly question. I think I know who asked this one. But how do you handle swamp bass on the rocks, man? If you're spending the night out there, like what do you do? Because it's not like when we go on our river trips, after a full day of fishing, you're fucking sweating your balls off. I just get in my boxers, jump in the clean river, and take a river bath.
Bro, that's one of the worst parts, man. Swamp bass.
Because at the coast you're not jumping in the water. You're only gonna get dirtier. So what do? You got some dude wipes? What's up?
So I got some wipes, bro. I take some wipes to the jetties, and that's what I use to.
You wipe your most important areas.
That's pretty much what I do, man. Because there's no getting away from it, bro. And I hate sleeping. Like, say if I'm camping on the jetty, you're already out there. So sleeping on any rock after 10 hours of fishing and being in the sun, like. Anywhere you lay, you're gonna probably pass out really fast.
That's the one thing that I don't like about the coast as well. Why it's hard for me to just really get into it is because even with our little setup, Travis and I growing up, his grandpa had a horse trailer that they converted into like a bunk bed trailer with a window unit they installed, and we would take a generator and keep that in the back of the truck, locked to the truck. So we would go down to the coast, fish all day in the kayaks, come back, we'd fill one of those those sports Gatorade jugs full of water, put that bitch on top of the trailer, rinse off with fresh water, take a bath. But again, we're not stationary on a jetty.
Microphone.
we're at the
Yeah.
bay. Yeah, we just take a quick little shower and then sleep in a cold ass place at night. But dude, it's hard at the coast because you've got fucking pterodactyl sized mosquitoes.
Yeah, and then you got
raccoons.
Raccoons the size of bears.
It smells like shit. You know, it's just it's tough to get into saltwater, but the fishing is so good that some people will do it. So it's a silly question, but a good question.
So yeah, a lot of it ties into your passion for the sport as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to go out there and if you don't like fishing, you're going to go out there and you're not going to catch fish for 30 minutes and you're just going to walk away.
Yeah.
For me, fish 30 minutes, an hour, they're not biting. I walk away and my friend texts me a minute later, hey, you left and the craziest thing happened.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, wow, if I would have just spent a couple more minutes right there in that same spot, I would have had like the craziest day of my life.
It happens. So the answer to that question, bring dude wipes.
Bring dude wipes,
Wipe your
man.
ass, wipe your balls, wipe your underarms. Good to go. Everything else,
Yep.
just got to roll with it.
Yeah, it ain't to be bougie out there, guys. You ain't trying to.
No. We're not glamping out there on
Yeah.
the rocks.
I had the worst fucking chafing on my ass when last trip I
man,
went to. Dude, for the whole weekend, the fucking salt was tearing my fucking asshole and gooch apart.
So believe it or not, before I go on a trip like that, I like to put some Vaseline or something before. So
I didn't think of it.
just so that way it keeps you from chafing in the first place.
Yeah, bro. I didn't think about it, and then the fucking sand, the salt, all that shit was grinding up and tearing my fucking asshole apart, bro. It was the
Yeah,
worst.
dude. Yeah, it's the worst. And then you're getting back and you're just burning up. And
Yeah. It was uncomfortable.
It's a nightmare, dude. Sounds like a nightmare,
So
man.
I have a question. This is a little weird question, but has there been anything crazy happen to you, like scary, whether it be paranormal or whether like crazy running with a shark, whatever the case may be, like saltwater fishing? It could be scary, it could be paranormal, whatever. Like, just I'm sure tons of people want to fucking hear these things.
So I hear stories, a lot of shark fishermen out there on pins. I'm gonna start fishing pins a lot more this year. But a lot
What
of
are pins?
Pins is a Padre Island National Seashore. So it's a beach that's a little bit farther down from Port Aransas and Corpus Christi. It's a national seashore. So it's a really big stretch of seashore that leads all the way up to Mainsfield jetties. And there's some really good fishing at those jetties, guys. But getting out there, so on those sands, there's people, things that happen throughout the years. People pass away. People even get murdered out there. So, I mean, not to say like that, but, there's been occasions, not to be scary, but there's been one occasion recently, one time that passed, that a couple that had got, kidnapped or something like that.
So what you're saying is La Llorona's out there.
Yeah, so
She's out there.
So there's stuff out there, man, definitely, because some of my buddies will be telling me they're shark fishing at night and they see, not generally lights, but they feel the presence and they see certain things that they shouldn't be seeing.
Damn, now
Yeah.
we really gotta go. Roland be fucking freaking out.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
That's a
man.
good question. Yeah, no, that's true.
People pass away. It's a sport, and you never know when you're going fishing. I always like to tell my loved ones I love you before I go or anything like that, because you never know what's gonna happen. You could slip and fall in the water.
I was gonna ask that next, because
Slip and
he
fall in the water
brought up
next
the
time
paranormal. When I've gone jetty fishing, I've always thought, how the fuck can I bring this big ass fish in? Because for people who've never been, dude, the waves with the boat traffic and the
believe it or
big
not,
rocks,
one wave, if you're on one rock, one wave could wash you off.
I just don't understand how you would ever recover, because one, it's covered in slime, it's covered in goo, it's algae, it's it's a body of water.
Yeah.
You fall in,
Hit your head.
the rocks and the waves
man.
are constantly beating on these rocks placed there that are the size of cars.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are do they make shoes? Do they make grips? What's the best way to help you out? Because I definitely wouldn't recommend going out there with a set of Crocs and just hoping you make it. Like,
Guys, I do use Crocs a lot, guys, but it's not the safe thing to do. But when you're getting down to slippery rocks, so I buy these things. They're called Corkers. It's a brand called Corkers, and they're called cast tracks. And they're like a set of overshoes that go over your shoes. I put them over my Crocs, but they're generally meant to be put over boots. And you put them over your boots, you strap them on. It's just like putting a chancla over your shoe or your foot or something. You can even put it barefoot if you're really up to filling the straps on your legs.
What would you call it? What was the brand?
So it's called Corkers, and the type of Corkers is called cast tracks, and it's just the overshoe. It looks like a chancla that you just.
How much those run?
So they run about $100, but you can't go wrong with that because it literally is a lifesaver.
Your life's worth more than $100. So
Correct,
yeah, Corkers, if you're listening,
If you're fishing Port Aransas,
give us
sponsor your boy.
Give us a sponsor.
Yeah.
Sponsor your boy. He'll put it on. It'd be worth it if you give him a sponsorship. So cool. So that's basically something that's what I also want to showcase too, man, with
In
the
my life.
podcast is that fishing is, I mentioned it last podcast. I don't know if anybody caught it or cared or listened close enough, but Rolando was talking about how he transitioned from motorcycle racing to kayaking, and I had said a passion that's a little more safe. And I meant that when I said a little more safe, because kayaking, bass fishing on the jetties, fishing as a whole, it is still dangerous.
Yeah.
It is. I don't think a lot of people realize that. You know, my wife is always like, where'd you go? Where are you going? Where will you be? So she'll know at least the vicinity of where I was supposed to be last. Because there is, especially on the rivers, I mean,
Some parts you lose signal.
You lose signal. Get your foot caught in a log jam when you fall. Get bit by a water moccasin in the middle of a creek.
Hey, that ain't no lie.
Like there's snakes at the coast. There's raccoons with rabies at the coast.
Yeah.
You could fall in. I mean, fishing.
You murdered.
Yeah, you could
get murdered.
You just said it.
I mean,
Murdered on the beach.
like, I mean, straight up, it is. You always hear. You know, that, I mean, you don't ever hear, rather, that while fishing is a passion, while it's a pastime, while it's fun, while it put food on your table growing up as a kid, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's like
Definitely
anything,
is.
you know, but I don't think people really correlate danger and fishing as much as they should. I mean, I want to do an open water reentry this summer with a big camera, so we can have because nobody's ever done it, a high quality, proper training to reenter a kayak if you flip in the middle of an 80-foot lake. And that's, again, I always tell people.
That's something I never experienced flipping in the kayak.
That's what I always tell people. It's
I'm
not,
used to it. I'm a veteran on that shit.
Hey, Roland's a veteran, not at much, but at flipping, he's number one. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, that's something that needs to be addressed, because again, it's not talked about. I mean, again, when people come kayak fishing with me for the first time or ask questions about it and say, oh, well, you know, it's not if you're going to flip, it's when.
You got to put yourself in those scenarios, man, because
It's
no matter
when.
what, it's going to happen.
It's
right?
when. It's
Yeah.
not if, it's when.
Yeah, like for me, I always see myself like I can easily get washed off a rock anytime by a big wave when I'm going down to land a big fish. It can just happen.
I can't even imagine, let's say you're talking about fighting a 5 foot, 75-pound kingfish, and you're trying to stay up from the water.
Yeah, or
like,
catching a shark from the rocks too.
You're fighting a beast.
Yeah.
You know, if you're using a 10-foot rod with a 6,000 size reel. For those who don't realize what that looks like, you're physically fighting a beast.
Yeah.
Like literally a
Literally,
big
tug of war.
jack crevalle. You know,
It's tug of war with another big. I guess you could say another big
animal.
Oh, yeah,
another big animal. Another animal on the planet that's just as strong as you, probably better suited for what you're doing. So,
in their
what
environment.
is the hardest fighting fish you've ever caught out there? Just a random side note.
So the hardest fighting fish I've caught out there has to be the jack crevalle, and behind it would be the kingfish. Kingfish would be up there, but after their long first initial runs,
They
kinda
just don't have that broomstick of a tail like a jack, huh?
Well, I mean, they still have the power, but they kind of they literally practically kill themselves fighting you on their first or two runs. Your first run, they literally run so hard that your reel literally smells like burned metal. and it gets that's why they call them smokers. It's crazy. So like they rip your line, and they'll rip like a whole 80 yards of line like nothing in a minute, like not even a minute, like a couple seconds. They'll rip a whole 80 yards of line, and you're just looking at your reel, wondering if the fish is ever going to stop.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to set up a trip with you, dude. And like I said, taking the big cameras and taking the quality gear, because I want to get that on film.
It's
You're
nuts.
ripping a jack and Roland's just panned in right there on the reel, just
Yeah, dude, it's absolutely nuts. When you look into those big
in
fish,
4K. Catch that shit in 4K.
just dogging you, and your reel's just burning.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here. We've been going for like an hour and
6 minutes.
Hour and 6 minutes. Well, I mean, it's up to you. What do you have anything? I'll let you take over in the sense of, do you have anything that you would like to share for maybe somebody that's interested in getting started with jetty fishing, with saltwater fishing? What are some? I asked Rolando this question. I'll ask you. What are 3 3 basic tips or 3 of your top tips for somebody who's wanting to learn saltwater fishing that maybe doesn't know much about it. And that could be anything, man. That could be gear, that could be mindset, that could be type of fishing, type of weather, time of year. What are your 3 top tips for somebody that's looking to get into saltwater fishing, specifically jetty, since that's what you're honed in on the most?
Cool. So break it down. There's a lot of science getting into it, guys. A whole lot of science. We're talking moons, talking
Manny's
pressure. We're talking about all kinds of things.
He's not listening. What's up?
I heard.
So what's up? So you're talking science. What's up?
It's a big science. So we're tying in the moon phases, winds, pressure, tides. All that gets tied into one, and of course seasons and everything. And one website that I use that kind of does that factor all for you. It's called Smart Tides for Fishing, and you can select your state. After that, select the area of water, the body of water that you're fishing, and it kind of ties all that into it for you, and it kind of does all the math for you. If you're already experienced and knowing what to look for, you could use your knowledge along with that, and of course it just kind of works in all together, man.
And you said that's www.smarttidesforfishing.com?
Correct. And one of my other big things goes from freshwater to saltwater. No matter what, guys, big thing to look for is pressure drops. That's one of the major things. Pressure drops and moon phases. It affects any kind of fish, from freshwater to saltwater, any kind of fish, either bait fish, everything. Gotcha. And a pressure drop, it could be a weather change, storm incoming, northern, southern. It could be any kind of storm incoming. It's going to change from a high pressure to a low pressure. And on that decline, those fish are just going to go nuts feeling that pressure change, because they have air bladders that just they feel that change, and they just go absolutely nuts on a feeding frenzy. So what I like to use, this one weather website called Weather Underground. It's not an app, it's a website itself. You could get the app itself, but I like to use the website itself so I don't have so much apps on my phone. I use Weather Underground, and I select the area, and I put 10-day forecast, and it's going to show you a graph on there, and pressure is going to be one of the items on there. And seeing that drop, 30 is going to be your balance, and seeing that drop is going to be what you're looking for, guys. Anywhere dropping below 30 and it's above 30, that's going to be a day to go fish. And then you look into your Smart Tides for Fishing and look for the better times of that day to fish, and it's just going to be all lined up.
What was that second website you mentioned?
Weather Underground.
Uh-huh.
And you could use that for freshwater, saltwater. It's really just shows you the weather patterns, and it's constantly updating it. And it shows a graph of pressure, rain chances, and all that other stuff.
Nice. So again,
wind.
Again, listeners, it's it's crazy that guys that are dialed in on fish, whether it's fresh or salt, it's not just, oh, it's a pretty day today, let me get out there and go fish. Yeah. Fishing is a science. Fishing is it's a learned skill. It's a learned craft. And that's one great tip. That's an awesome tip, man. SmartTidesForFishing.com and WeatherUnderground.com, basically tying in your weather pressures, your barometric pressures, what the pressure you're talking about, and then of course tides, all that stuff is on those sites. So we're gonna lump that as all into one, because it all pertains with one thing. So the next thing, whether that's gears, etc., blah blah blah, what's the second tip you would give to somebody just getting started, wanting to get out there, wanting to see success?
Jetty fishing, of course. You can't go wrong with your corkers. Don't forget them. That's your lifesaver. You're gonna be out there on the rocks trying to land a fish. You're gonna catch a fish, and you're gonna be looking at other people who have.
What's a corker? The cleats. The cleats. Gotcha.
For your slippery, especially if you're fishing slippery rocks. You could be fishing a jetty and you may not be fishing a spot that's slippery and you don't need them. But 80% of the time, you're going to be going down there to land a fish on a slippery rock if you don't have a net. So you're going to get down there. You need corkers. It's a lifesaver.
It's a must-have.
Must have.
Gotcha.
And then also 4K, 5K size reel. Any 4K is going to catch you all your slots. You want to go a little bit bigger, but stay affordable. Keep to a 5K. High-end reels. I wouldn't go more than like a $500 reel. I would stick to like somewhere between $100, $100 to $200 the most.
Gotcha. So pretty much you're saying it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Correct. So show up with a 4,000 to 5,000 size reel. Don't got to break the bank. you can if you can afford it, and once you start getting into it, you start maybe making some money from it, or you just start investing in better quality stuff.
Correct.
But you can still get a 4 to 5,000 size reel for about $100.
Correct.
Here at Outdoor Alphas, here anywhere online, so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure Samuel will price match anything you find as well. So we definitely want you to shop local, shop small with us.
Yeah, this 3K size will catch you most of your slot fish too, honestly.
Gotcha. So obviously, if you're going out for those bigger fish, this is not something you're going to want to take. But
Correct.
for getting out there to catch trout,
Something you want to eat for dinner, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so those are 3 gate tips, especially that first one, man. That was an awesome tip. Well, guys, that's been the episode today. I'd like to thank Ray for coming out, man. Again, we'll probably have him on maybe once we get together and go out on the water together. Shoot, you got anything rolling?
Yeah. Real quick, have you thought about making a Patreon?
Actually, I have people asking me for that.
Do it, bro. Yeah, I mean, it's an extra income, and it'll be going directly towards you. It won't be, YouTube breaking down analytics
I have
to
a lot
pay
of,
you.
Yeah, I have a lot of people asking me for certain things that I would rather give out on the Patreon instead.
It's a little bit more of a workload, but dude,
I have a lot of questions going out already, and I kind of don't like answering most of them openly.
You have, yeah, dude. Open. It's all me asking the questions. No, but I'm being serious. Set up a fucking Patreon page, man, for $10 a month or something, and people will pay and try to get info, and you could share those secrets with the world. But you could be getting money off of it. You got to make a living somehow, man.
Yeah, you're right, bro. Yeah, Patreon is something I've been thinking about, but
we've been debating on doing it, but we don't have the following yet to start it.
You've got a what are your numbers right now? Like, what are you at social media? What are you at on YouTube?
I'm at 5K, but literally over the last month, my growth is like insane. I went over 1,500, I think, last month on my growth.
As far as subscribers.
What about accounts? You're reaching.
I don't know how YouTube does analytics.
You said majority of your following came from YouTube, a majority of your watchers.
I'm sure you can find that though. I've been out of the YouTube game for years.
Yeah, I can help you with that.
You go to the analytics somehow. The YouTube Studio will probably help out right there.
We'll break it down maybe after we've got computers here.
Yeah, big thing is, guys, people on most YouTube channels, including mine, a big number of the watchers are not subscribed, or say on Instagram followers. Like anything like that.
Yeah, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, guys. We reached what Roland think he said we reached over 8,000 people this month as far as us pushing out content online, but like 6,000 plus were non-followers. Yeah. So hey, don't be like that. Hit follow.
Yeah, it helps us to gain what we want, what we want to know. What basically helps us gain what we don't know about what y'all want to see. And basically a lot of things, it ties into a bunch of stuff. So we get to know our audience more and what people like to watch. And also it helps us in turn to do more content as well, like, paying out wise, because YouTube doesn't really pay so much, but, pennies on the views and stuff. But, things like that matter because one little thing, we stay up all night editing. We do a lot of stuff. And a simple sub is free, guys. And simple follow is free. And that helps your growth. You're getting a lot of knowledgeable information from us, and you're seeing us on the water. You're seeing us catch these fish, including like you're here, bro. You're always out there catching the greenbacks all the time, right? And you're putting out there. You're showing what lures work and stuff like that. All that takes a lot of time, and a simple follow, a simple subscribe to anybody that you're watching. And not just me.
It means a lot.
It means a lot, guys.
Like yesterday, we fucking went fishing and didn't catch it. But that's part of it. I'll do it again. If I had time today, I'd do it again.
Speaking of that too, like whenever I go fishing, I don't catch nothing. I never take it as a loss. I always learn something.
Oh yeah, you always learn what not to throw.
Exactly.
But that's because you care. That's because you're passionate about it. Again, yesterday I was throwing a new lure that he had ended up getting from a different swim bait company, and I mean I was just learning different techniques with it. I was realizing what I liked about it, what I didn't, so on and so forth, and that's part of the process. Again, we didn't bring home anything. I think I caught one 8-inch bass. I mean, and it was a section of river. The thing is with the river fishing right now, not to get off subject, is just we're so like low with water, and I don't know what died, what survived, what not.
These
so
rains kind of help.
It's hard. It's hard to figure that out. But I mean, a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes. Or like, we go out, we had to load up the kayaks, drive 45 minutes
on no sleep on
come
top
up
of that,
river.
bro. Like sometimes sometimes 1 hour of sleep, driving 2 hours with a cup of coffee, just just to get on the bite because you don't want to miss that morning bite.
And what gear are you using out there? Have you invested in like good quality gear? I'm not talking about fishing gear. I'm talking about to help your social media platform look better, like to look more polished. Like
honestly, I've been using straight GoPro, but I need to give me a drone and another camera pretty soon.
I was gonna say if I would make one suggestion for you, because I
also
watched your stuff.
A mic too for more clear voice.
I've watched your stuff. I follow your stuff. I like checking in on everybody from the pro staff, especially because we were gonna have you on as a guest. I would definitely recommend getting a camera like that and a tripod. Obviously, on the windy days, it's crazy, but getting a nice camera.
The B-roll.
That and just Instagram and social media is just becoming so much more polished, man. To make it nowadays, you can't just have a GoPro and a cell phone. You have to have A6000, whatever, at a minimum. Is what we're talking about. Like we're talking about, you need like a 4K quality, camera. You need a good laptop to edit, and that's also what's held me back. Where is I didn't care to invest in that stuff, but now I have to because it's just going to take the growth from. And I was telling Roland too. I was like, hey man, don't worry about the following that we're not getting it there. We're not this because let's make the content that gets us there. You know what I mean? Like the social media. I will say my favorite thing about social media is that it is the truest free market. Meaning, if you make good content, doesn't matter what you look like, who you are, where you're from, the people will come. So I was telling, man, if they're not there, it's because we're not doing cool shit yet, right? Because when you're doing cool shit, it's easy to follow. It's literally the biggest free market out there. Yeah, in life, everything's gate capped. Oh, I gotta know who I rubbed elbows with. But in social media, you don't need to rub elbows with anybody. You just need to make good shit. If you make good content, the market will be like, yo, that guy, follow him because he's super cool. He catches big fish. He's informative. And his stuff looks great online.
And that's the thing is like, when I think releasing this episode, people are really going to know like where you're at in life, and understand like, your upbringings, and they're going to want to support you. And that's why I'm essentially pushing for you to get a Patreon page. I'll pay for that shit, bro. Like, I'm willing to support anybody that we end up having here as a fucking guest, and I would hope that anybody listening would be doing the fucking same.
Yeah, bro. There's a lot of work that we put into this. A lot of work with our passion and love, and it's like literally blood, sweat, and tears, you could say, because you're out there beating yourself up on the water, getting cuts, battle scars, losing sleep, getting gray hairs from the stress that you're having to edit and no sleep, all kinds of things. It's a process, man. So
essentially, also it's just
showing the love back makes us feel so much better.
100%, and like also it's just you taking that leap of faith. Like, you know what, I'm gonna go in on it and just try to make this work and just try to see where I end up getting out of this. And I think people seeing that on this episode is legit. Hopefully, ends up throwing like all the supporters your way that are willing to help you along the journey.
Didn't even think about that. You literally again, you're supporting your father in
like it's a fucking inspiring story.
And you left a company in Toyota, right? It's a great company, especially here in Texas, or in San Antonio rather. They've got the plant. It's been great for the community and the economy. And then of course you were working part-time to kind of support your passion. And then this year you were like, you know what? Fuck it. I need to nut up and just kind of do it. Right? I understand that. I've taken that leap of faith. I've bet on myself. I own a successful business, and it takes a lot of hard work. Yeah, we're in year 10. Yeah, it looks fun and easy and cool now, but it's been 10 years, right? So you're just on year 1. You're doing great. You've had a big jump in followers, like you just mentioned. That's awesome, man. And like I said, everybody on the pro staff is on the pro staff for a reason. You're passionate. You care. I will say, that's one thing we've done really right here in OA is that we've got people behind the team that, again, are putting San Antonio on the map, are getting the word out there, are letting people know that, hey, we're here. We're the 7th largest city in the country, and we've got some of the best anglers out there. So, again, man, I appreciate...
mention some of the best gear.
Oh, dude, some of the best gear here in town. So, like I said, man, appreciate you coming on, guys. Make sure you're following his YouTube. It's South Texas Fishing Fam, correct? Okay. Same on Instagram?
Same on Instagram.
Okay, TikTok? Same on TikTok?
Same on TikTok.
All the handles, guys, at South Texas Fishing Fam. That's been a great podcast, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me, man.
Yes, sir. We'll see you on the next one. That's it.
Call.
Yeah, guys, come on. Quit being scared, dude. Call the hotline. What's the number?
All right, give me 1 second.
Get the number. We'll cut this as a reel. Quit
Yeah, leave
being
it.
scared, dude. Call. Talk about the stories. Like, we want to hear it.
Like I have one, guys, like I'm out there fishing and we're out there early in the morning, and I absolutely hate when I'm out there camping on the jetty, spending my time out there, and a boat just pulls up right in front of me because they see me catch a fish. And they have a whole ocean to park at, a whole entire jetty. They see me catch a fish and they park right in front of me. What the heck?
Or the best, you're out there.
Oh my God.
You're out there trying to catch a couple little minutes of sleep after camping out there, and then the pinche pulga shows up.
Oh yeah, dude.
You're like, fuck, I better get up because they're
Yeah,
here.
bro.
But what's the number?
All right, 210-816-1641. Everything's anonymous.
Everything's anonymous. We just get random numbers. I don't care to look. I don't care how stupid, how silly. Keep it clean. It can be vulgar in the sense of your language, but nothing. We're not gonna post anything that's dumb. That's just rude. That's outright ugly. But be silly. Be funny. Tell us your stories. Things you hate about fishing, as far as the shit you run into. So that's been another episode, guys. It's episode 7, 6
Yeah,
technically
technically
6,
six.
but 7 total, but six on the Spotify. Thanks for the support, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. Boom.